As I mentioned to you, my name is Bertold. I work here at mabl. I'm a quality catalyst here, and I just want to give you a little talk about how you can use visualization in your process to improve your quality culture. As you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about software testing in general, and then I really enjoy working here as a quality advocate at mabl, because I feel like that I can really make an impact in our lives and how we deliver good value to our customers. So the reason why we are all here, because we again, as I mentioned, we want to deliver value to our customer, and it doesn't really matter what your role you have in the company. Without the value, we cannot really just follow a process for a process's sake. We are really just checking an item off our list if we are not focusing on value. And we want to deliver more value every day, right? And more value and then faster. Because we all want our businesses to succeed and stay in business. There's a company called Insight that reported that in 2016 the average tenure of companies as S&P 500 was in 1965 it was 33 years, and it dropped to 20 years by 1990, and it's predicted to be 14 years. So do you want your company to stick around and stay around, then you better focus on your customers and what you kind of deliver as a value. So in general, they mentioned, and this is the key takeaway from that article, is that the company cannot endure in the long term without reinventing themselves. Leaders have to be vigilant about the shifting needs of their customer base. And to do this, we really need the whole team on board on delivering value. And we are also in this area what we call modern testing, and you may have heard about that term before. And in this model, more and more organizations are shifting towards a model where you don't have a separate QA team, and teams need to deliver value, or what they call shippable quality, without the large QA groups. And in this whole team approach, there are various stakeholders, such as product managers, product owners, developers, testers, ops engineers, security engineers, designers, all work together to deliver that. And how do we create this, good shared understanding within the team? And one, by talking about it, and even better if you can sometimes visualize this process and then make it obvious where and how you could improve this whole process. So here you can see an example, a delivery pipeline that is just an imaginary setup where you can see that some steps are automated, some steps are manual, and a good way to think about a particular situation is to imagine what kind of steps you would want to do to fix a defect in production, right? Your actual pipeline may look different, but there may be always steps in your pipeline that will be manual, and that is again, that's not the whole point of getting this exercise done. But at the end of the day, you want to get your team together and get everybody involved on your team, and then create a shared understanding of what happens during the delivery of the code from fixing a defect to delivering it to production. Bring a lot of sticky notes and pens to the meeting, and work together and capture each and every step in the pipeline, and put those on the wall, and start asking questions about each and every step in the pipeline. How long does each stage take? How can we shorten the feedback cycle? Are we pushing or pulling from one stage to another? What value does each step bring, and what risks do we encounter at each step? And how could we mitigate that risk, right? Could we make some stages run in parallel? It's also a good thing to think about dependencies, both internal and external dependencies, just as services. And could you perhaps mark any of those services? Is there a manual step that you could automate? And finally, who is alerted on a failure, and how do we manage those failures? In general, just look for bottlenecks in your pipeline. Are there ways to eliminate these bottlenecks? Look for improvements. What could you do differently to shorten the feedback loops and speed up the delivery pipeline? By visualizing the pipeline, you want to create a shared understanding within your team. And at the end of the day, everybody should have the same idea about the delivery pipeline. And you know, there will be skeptics, and it may take some effort to convince your team. But you know, focus on explaining the value that this process would take. For example, this is a way to talk to developers. What do you want to do more? Do you want to work on, you know, unplanned work, rework, fixing bugs, or do you want to, you know, work on new features? And this stats came from the book called Accelerate that I can't recommend highly enough. But they showed, you know, the survey of over the course of several years, how much more high-performing teams spend on new work versus rework. So, so, you know, while you are doing this exercise, just capture the list of issues and prioritize them with your team and act on them, and don't forget follow up. And here are some of the resources that I can recommend to you. One of those is the Testing in DevOps side that Lisa Crispin, one of my coworkers, is helping shepherd. And you know, some of the books that I maybe mentioned and referred to, and I'm really happy that, you know, finally the new version of Agile testing came out just a month or two ago. It is like a very good book, but I highly recommend all the others to help you on your journey to deliver more value. So go visualize with your team, and thank you for your time. I also want to give shout out to the company mabl, and I just want to mention, as last but not least, we don't often talk about it, how much I appreciate all the women that help me in my job too, but in general in the industry. I would really like to advocate and help people to get more diversity in our craft, in our software testing practice in general. Thank you so much.